For decades, Sean Diddy Combs was more than just a name. He was an institution. I mean, this guy wasn't just making music. He was crafting the very culture of hip-hop, fashion, and business, a true icon of success. But as we're about to see, behind all the platinum records and those legendary parties, a very different story was unfolding, one that would lead to one of the most spectacular falls from grace we've seen in a long, long time.
So let's just get right into it. The contrast here is just wild. The man who once seemed to own the world, from the music charts to the boardroom, suddenly found himself facing the reality of a prison cell. The big question we're going to unpack here is, how on earth did this happen?
You know what? Let's actually start at the end. The final result of all of this was a federal prison sentence, 4 years and 2 months. So now that we know the destination, let's rewind and figure out how a global icon ended up here. Because this entire thing was kicked off by one single seismic event.
To really get a handle on the criminal conviction, we have to start with the civil lawsuit that was the catalyst. This was the first domino to fall, and believe me, it fell hard. Okay, check out the dates here, because the speed is just incredible. On November 16, 2023, Combs' former partner, the singer Cassie Ventura, files this lawsuit with these truly horrific allegations. The very next day, just 1 day later, it's settled. That speed was shocking to a lot of people, but the story, well, it was far from over.
About 6 months after that super fast settlement, the whole game changed. CNN got their hands on hotel surveillance footage from 2016, and for the public, this was the moment everything snapped into focus. It's one thing to read allegations in a court document. It's another thing entirely to see video of him grabbing, kicking, and dragging Cassie down a hotel hallway.
And just 2 days after that video went viral, Combs released this apology. But for a lot of people, it just felt like too little, way too late. I mean, the apology only came after there was undeniable video proof of something that happened 8 years before. And that video evidence, that confirmation, it seemed to give other people the courage to come forward.
And boy, did they come forward. What started with just one lawsuit quickly turned into an absolute torrent. That first case really did open the floodgates for a massive wave of civil allegations against him.
The numbers here are just staggering. By late 2025, you're looking at over 70 separate civil complaints. 70, each one painting a piece of a much larger, much darker picture of alleged abuse that spanned decades. And just when you thought that number couldn't get any bigger, it did. In October of 2024, a team of lawyers announced they were getting ready to file as many as 120 more lawsuits. And this new group of accusers included both men and women, some of whom were allegedly minors when the incidents happened.
Now, across all of these dozens of lawsuits, a really disturbing pattern started to emerge. While the specifics of each case were different, they often shared these same horrific themes. It really started to look less like a series of isolated incidents and more like a consistent, long-running pattern of behavior.
So while all these civil suits were piling up, a totally separate and frankly much more serious threat was brewing for Combs. We're talking about a federal criminal investigation. Suddenly, this wasn't about money anymore. This was about his freedom. And the federal case moved fast. It all kicked off with those highly publicized raids on his homes. That led to a grand jury indictment, and then his arrest in September 2024. And here's a key detail. A judge denied him bail and kept denying him bail, basically saying he was too much of a risk for intimidating witnesses. So from that point on, he was in federal custody.
Now, one of the most serious charges here was racketeering. You've probably heard that term before, usually in movies about the mob, right? Well, that's kind of the point. It's a major federal charge. It means the prosecutors believed Combs wasn't just committing random, isolated crimes, but was actually running his whole operation like an ongoing criminal enterprise.
So, with Combs locked up and awaiting trial, the stage was set for the final verdict. But honestly, regardless of what the jury decided, the court of public opinion was already delivering its own sentence, and his entire empire was collapsing in real time.
The verdict, when it finally came down on July 2nd, 2025, was a split decision, which really shows how complex this case was. The jury found him not guilty of the biggest charges, that's the racketeering and the sex trafficking. However, they did find him guilty on 2 felony counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. So he dodged the biggest bullets, but he did not walk away free.
And even before that verdict, the institutional fallout was just total. His own alma mater, Howard University, revoked his honorary degree.
New York City took back the key to the city, Macy's pulled his clothing line, he was outed his own TV network, a Hulu show got scrapped. It was a complete and public dismantling of his empire.
And the rejection wasn't just corporate, it was deeply cultural. You had the pop star Keisha on stage at Coachella changing the iconic opening line of her biggest hit song. That one little moment spoke volumes. It was a symbol of this massive cultural shift, a real-time rejection of the whole Diddy persona.
You can actually see the fallout in the data. Radio just stopped playing him. I mean, airplay plummeted by almost 90%, and listeners on streaming services, they were hitting skip too, with streams dropping by more than half. The man who built an empire on sound was being met with total silence.
And so we're left with this question that's so much bigger than just one person. When a cultural icon falls this hard, what actually happens to their legacy? The downfall of Sean Combs forces all of us to think about some really tough ideas about power, justice, and what we do with the art and the influence and the memories that get left behind when the person who created them is completely disgraced.